Perfect. Sean Hacking, founder and CEO of Veer Cycle. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. It's a real pleasure to have you here, Sean. Very exciting company. Sean's here to give everybody an inside take on industry trends as an engineer and a founder, how to avoid pitfalls a lot of smaller investors have fallen into over the last couple of years. Talk a little bit, Sean, about some of these major trends from your perspective, as you are pretty deeply involved in this industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So basically, I wanted to talk about four major trends that we've seen kind of pop up. Um, the first one is that, transportation mobility is exploding, but not everybody is winning here. To summarize, there's a lot of hype around the market, especially with the rise of Tesla and the likes. But trends have kind of shown that it's actually hard for companies to make money, um, which is, a few win, which is usually what happens in rapidly changing industries. And the fourth trend is that really execution, not the hype tech, is what wins.
That's fantastic. Okay, really good start. Can you add some more detail on these trends and how they're shaping the future of what we're seeing here?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, it's exploding market. Like for example, um, e-bikes grew in the U.S. 145% from 2019 to 2020. You've got these different trends like electrification, the pandemic, the interest in sustainability, infrastructure investments in light mobility that are all kind of coming together to create this shift in the market. Um, but you've also seen some kind of relative lackluster performance recently. So like Lime Technologies, huge micromobility provider, grew 5x 2018 to 2021, but they haven't performed so well in the last like 6 months. Tesla did 15x over 2 years, 2020 to 2021. But lately they've faced some headwinds in the actual operations and supply chain. So um, there's a lot of hype around some of these bigger stocks, but what you need to do, I think this is important, is with all this hype, like it's hard to sort out the facts from the hype. So if you ignore the hype, then you can kind of avoid adding this huge amount of risk to your portfolio. Um, for example, you've got like retail investor Joe over here, right? He saw QuantumScape's lab results and VW teasing a deal and thinks this is going to be huge, right? This is a new solid state battery technology for electric vehicles. Gets in on the SPAC offering and the stock price dies 50%, which stings. And I think part of that was this huge hype cycle. So like, why did that stock not perform? Well, they have no product. They're super secretive, and they don't expect to have a product before 2024. So it's hard for the market to really respond to a company that says that they're not going to make anything until 2024. But we have this great thing.
That's great. Okay, talk about some of the unseen problems, right? Specifically when it comes to mobility. What are some of the things that we weren't anticipating that might be roadblocks here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, um, like I mentioned earlier, it's hard for a lot of companies to actually make money because of the unit economics and logistics and and by definition is a mixed hardware software kind of integration problem when you're talking about mobility. So when you look at the challenges, it's usually like how do you integrate and marry these different technologies into a vehicle or into a business that might now be heavy on electrification or heavy on software and stuff like that. And so some of the challenges are, for example, in the durability of a lot of the components that are designed for or being launched for this kind of a movement in electrification and electric mobility. And that's a dangerous spot to be in when you're either building vehicles or operating a service-based company, when you've got the components that really don't hold up. That ruins your unit economics when you go to launch an electric bike onto the streets and it only lasts 2 months, like some of the bike share providers have seen. That's a major problem. That's something that I'm excited to be working on at Veer, is really the hardware side of of the problem, the durability problem, and making new technology super easy to integrate into existing designs so that we can solve this sort of integration and supply chain and operations fiasco we've seen in some of these businesses.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you guys are very deeply involved in shaping, but also reacting to these trends with what you're doing at Veer. You guys are well positioned for these trends and everything else that's coming along in the industry. Where can our audience learn more about you guys and what you're doing at Veer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, yeah, I think that we are basically we've been trying to tackle the actual issues, not just generate a lot of hype around some of these bigger things like battery technology or something, but really tackle the nuts and bolts kind of issues. So if people watching want to learn more about market trends and some of the stuff I've been talking about, they can actually go. We're closing up a raise on Start Engine. That's startengine.com/Veer, and you can actually get in on that raise. We're closing in a couple weeks, or just learn more about the industry and kind of the things that we've been up to lately.
Well, that's awesome. Sean Hacking, founder and CEO of Veer Cycle. It's been a genuine pleasure having you on, talking to us about these market trends and what you guys are doing with Veer Cycle. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.